Can I turn my sound off too?
That'd be best. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Writers Drinking Coffee. This is a podcast of a bunch of writers sitting around, drinking and talking about writing, publishing, and the whole creative process. We do not censor ourselves, so consider us PG-13. Today, your hosts are John Schmidt, David Welsh, Raymond Miller, and me, Jeannie Warner. This is episode 99, Notes and Notebooks. Oh my gosh, we're at episode 99. Look at us go.
Whee!
I just want to say that we should get smart because Agent 99.
Agent 99 was the best.
I don't know. She
was the best.
She was the best. Yeah. But she never had to take notes in a shoe. So the question is, what should you take your notes in and why? I put mine mostly on the computer and then I lose them, which explains why I haven't written so much.
You got 99 problems, but notes ain't one of them.
Obviously not.
Well, 1,000 years ago, John, you introduced me to the small moleskines. And I wrote that because the first times I started getting sent overseas for my great corporate masters, I don't know if you remember, but I wrote things down in my notebooks and then I dumped it all on LiveJournal for fun and entertainment purpose. So
I'm holding a Moleskine clone right now that says, oh, okay.
So I was going to say, Raymond, I know you keep notebooks because you always have one when we're sitting around having coffee and you suddenly pull it out and you get a grin on your face and you scribble something down. I want to challenge you to open it randomly and read me something from your notebook.
I was hoping you wouldn't say that because there's a lot of stuff in here. But I'm going to be honest. All right. Random. Oh, man.
I got some.
No, I got it. So I was going to write a horror story because I was into zombies for a long time. George Romero, there was no zombie movie that came out that I didn't watch. And so I was taking notes on just doing a real-time zombie blog. So literally someone's trying to get home from, one end of the country to the other. And as, say, what is today? May 3rd. It would literally be an entry of May 3rd. If it's raining, it's raining. If there are people out, there are people out, and you're running from zombies. And I was going to keep that up for 365 days. And that is the note I put on this grandiose idea that I wrote down years ago and never got around to.
So story starts.
Starts.
I have a few of those. I wrote one when I was thinking, I keep told over and over that I can't write the story of Luca Brasi because I had a dream of The Godfather. And Luca Brasi, for those of you that have actually read the book, and if you haven't read the book, just, spoilers, but Luca killed a woman and he got bailed out by The Godfather, and that was how he became kind of his made man. He solved it over. He didn't go to prison. He got him off. And my question was, what if Luca Brasi was actually a witch hunter or a witch finder? And there were negative stregas, and maybe every Italian family has a strega. And then it became, well, what's a corporate strega? I guess that'd be marketing, but sorry, marketing.
No, legal.
No, that's a consigliere. So there's a direct and obvious thing on that one, but
maybe version control. But anyway.
But so that's where that one led me of my little entry on a book. Dave, do you have any little notebook entries?
I keep mine on in electronic files, and one of my kind of bugbears has always been I can't, unless I'm sitting in front of my computer where I can type. I take notes very slowly on my phone, but then they're recorded and in an electronic form and on the cloud, so my OCD is satisfied. Otherwise, they'd be in like a notebook somewhere that I'd never find again. So to answer your question, yes, I have files of ideas here. One is just labeled ideas. What?
Read us a snippet of your idea file.
While he's looking, I've got one queued up, just opening this book and finding it with a $20 bill next to it. So obviously it was a good idea. And it's very simply that the phrasing of a Latin prayer in front of villagers who don't speak Latin will allow you, using the same words, to change the genitives and the vocatives and all the stuff that's hidden in Latin. And send messages that way. So you could have a brand of monsters that are communicating through the parish priest so that no one knows what's going on. And that was the idea, and I never did anything with it.
Cool.
That's good. I like that. Won't steal it.
Oh, no. Hey, that's one thing that's just a mechanism. It's not, that would be a small part of a story.
Yes.
Now, if I was doing 365 days of zombies with that mechanism, then we've got some interesting issues, but you wouldn't use Latin on zombies. They're not going to understand it. So we've got to go to vampires, and let's go to
Wait a second. What if they took out the Vatican Council with a zombie plague? It strikes me that they would have the Latin still, wouldn't they?
So now we have to get into definition of zombies, and I don't know if I'm up for that. Since I am the kind of person who can't even read cute horror because my mind goes too far along on it.
It's true. John dies at the end. He couldn't
Stop!
take it in.
You keep bringing that book up. And it's full of spiders.
That was a
It
sequel.
is full of spiders.
That was a good book. I could only read bits of it, but yeah, they had some great mechanisms worked into the book that, as far as I could tell, were just cool and weren't actually the full thrust of the book.
And he had to keep the notebook to think of, what was it, a Bible taped to the end of a baseball bat, or the pages wrapped around it, something like that.
Yep.
And that is something you come up with on a toilet, while you're driving, while your mind is just clear and the thoughts are pure, and you pull out that notebook and you write it down because it is gold and you will forget it.
Exactly.
Especially if you're driving on a toilet. Yeah.
You got one, Dave?
Well, no, but I do, but if you don't, you'll forget it. I think that a lot. Oh, how could I forget this? This is brilliant. I'll remember this until, like 5 minutes later. What the hell was I thinking? And sometimes I'm able to reconstruct them, but usually not. So I have learned that if I want to save it, I need to write it down.
And you can't just write down a word or something, a prompt. You got to explain it to yourself.
You pretty much do.
It's explaining to you of 2 days from now, because you from 2 days from now is dumb. Is dumb. We'll put it that way.
Yeah. Same thing goes with writing computer code, by the way. Everybody says, I don't need to comment my code. I know what it says. We go back 6 months later and it's like, did I write this? What the fuck does this do?
Right. So that's the point. And a notebook is a great thing. You can also use it as a story graveyard. Now, I don't put my research in my notebooks anymore, but I do use them for that flash, and also sometimes just to get thoughts out of my head. Because you'll fixate on a thought and you'll start playing with it. And it's like, okay, I'm going to write this out. And I'll even go so far, like if it's something I'm going to make, I'll sketch it out and plan it out completely. And then I'm able to say, okay, I'm ready for the next step when I get there, and I can start buying parts. And then I don't have to think about it until I come back to it. There's a stack of those right here.
Yeah. Well, you said story graveyard. I mean, I was thinking of it more as a story nursery, but you're probably right. It's more of a graveyard in my case.
Well, we're back to
it's where story ideas go to die.
But we're back to zombie stories.
Something warm and comforting, and let them grow a little.
Uh-huh.
Maybe, we talked about, we decided nobody likes the term pantser. So if that's an organic grower versus a garden plotter, because I understand that there are people that diagram what is going to go where in their backyard in the seeds, as opposed to me who just sort of walks out and says, okay, the last parsley got about this big, so it needs to be about that far apart. Okay, that's good.
I said there are plotters and there are mycologists. Would that work?
My God.
A little too specific. Plus, there are oh God, you're triggering the botanist in me, and the mycologists are very strange people. So they're kind of like writers, that one.
True.
Kind
And my subscription to the Santa Cruz Fungus Federation, when it rains its spores, just ran out. Every time I join, we have a natural disaster, and no one goes mushrooming for a while.
So it's your fault.
So you're responsible.
So I'm not rejoining. I'm just not. I don't want to plague another plague or whatever. But okay.
See, that said that when it rains, it spores. That's the sort of thing I'll write down. Really, I mean, not just puns, but they make it in there as well.
Did you find a file for us, Dave?
What's that?
Did you find a file for us?
Sure. So sometimes there are reactions to something I read online. I assume that's what this one is. It says, Christ died for your sins. And then my response was, well, that was a waste of his time. I would have committed them without his help.
Yeah.
Right? So
that sounds like something
stories,
Sandman Slim might even say.
Yeah.
Then I have something here that I probably should have explained to myself a little more. It says stories versus data. I find analogies make the most compelling non-data arguments. But how do you judge the quality of an analogy argument, which maybe amounts to evaluating the quality of the analogy? Something I think about how we think sometimes.
Almost like you have a degree in cognitive psych or something.
Something like that.
Or something like that.
Social media for vandals. Could make $1 million. Call it defacebook.
Oh, God.
But
Yeah. The next entry in here is something John and I recorded. I was maybe I'll dig up the recording and tack it onto the end of the episode or something. It's just a little 1-minute skit that I wrote.
Which was fun, and you're right, we do need to get back to those.
Oh, we should. So I woke up once with a song running through my head, Grandfather's Clock, which I think is one of the creepiest songs that children sing. I mean, short of the ashes, ashes, we all fall down.
Short of that.
There are different reasons, but yeah, it's kind of a creepy song, grant you.
It is. And so I thought, it's like, all right, what if it created a whole thing of this is going to be the chronomancer? And so I wrote a short story about how basically grandfather lives forever and the family is never allowed to move away and everybody has a clock. And one by one, then the plague of 1918, everybody started dying and grandfather was very worried. So the family died faster because he kept taking pieces out of their clock and putting it into his clock. And that was how he was prolonging his life. And I'm like, this is... So then somebody said, okay, let's do a screenplay of this. And so I started writing a script and I got 20 pages in and I sent it to the nice man who was going to make the movie out of it. And he came back, he's like, does it have to be in the past? I'm like, what? Like, do you understand that setting things in the past in movies adds thousands and thousands of dollars?
What, just for costumes and stuff? Is that
yeah.
Like God, just
sets and everything else, yeah.
Costumes,
Continuity.
sets, props, continuity. So suddenly it was I may have to rethink all of this. And so I had a story that was I wrote it as a short story. I got halfway through writing it as a screenplay. I'm like, and now how do I make this all different? And also it was supposed to be a horror movie and then it turned into a thriller by accident.
So what you do is you write it out as a story or a novel or something, and then you sell the rights to somebody who wants to make it as a movie. And if they want to adapt it to the present, that's their business, but you don't have to.
No, you just flip it forward into the modern pandemic and cyber war and change it a little bit. And he's stealing their electronic clocks, and it's not clocks. He's taking out
Something.
elements of their gestalts so that...
No. Or you put it in present day. They've been doing this for centuries, right? So he forces all the young, every time a baby's born, he just gives them a grandfather clock or whatever it is. And so he's taking the pieces out, and you don't really have to have any flashbacks, and it would still be set in today. But the problem is getting all those clocks together and all the pieces.
Yeah, it worked well for where I was. And I said, I got it. I mean, 20 pages in is a fifth of a movie.
Yeah.
And so, movies are like 90 pages long.
Oh, okay.
That's about right.
And so, like I said, this was, and you can't just say write it and then somebody else will, because the whole point of this was my friend Jordan, who makes amazing movies, said, why don't you write me a horror script I can film?
I can film.
Let's skip ahead to the good stuff.
To be fair, he did say one that he could film, so you did not hand him that.
Yeah. So now I need to rethink it and think. I was like, okay, maybe it's modern is easier. I can have one flashback with a few costumes,
Yeah, and your flashback doesn't have to be complicated. It just could be two people dressed that way. And then more importantly, the family could be a family of clockmakers. I mean, you probably already said that. I blanked out for a second.
I may have already named them appropriately for a Swiss clockmaking family. So
yes. Oh, I wish you hadn't said that. So now I'm going to spend the next 2 or 3 days ideas popping in my head about this. It's a nice thorny thing to think about.
Okay. And you have me on instant message. So you just feel free. Because like I said, this is an interesting exercise, like one of John's writing exercises from Ursula Le Guin of saying, I want to tell the same story. And I told it in a short story format, which, the final scene was her stopping the grandfather clock, because if she could stop the clock, then the old man would finally die. And I had things like, the pendulum cutting off her fingers and blood spraying. It was going to be awesome.
Oh, nice.
right?
Yes.
But now I'm like, oh, okay, this is a little bit more suspensey and the othersy, and because it kind of came back to I woke up the next, recently and said, what if grandfather's already dead at the opening of the movie? What if he's not the chronomancer anymore? Who would be? Because then I could move it forward, but would they know they're the chronomancer? I don't know. So again, it's sort of like, how do I make this filmable in an affordable way? This is, tribute to Damien Tresler from his talk when he writes for community theater saying, we have 3 old guys, 2 young guys, a really obedient dog, and a bunch of cactus costumes. Write me something.
I can hear the Western music starting even as we speak.
I went to a Fringe festival in San Diego a couple of years ago. Best thing that I saw, well, it was the end of the Fringe festival, so there were only a couple of options. But the best thing that I saw was they had over the course of the festival, they'd had some screenwriters write, or not screenwriters, but playwrights write. And I don't remember exactly how it worked, but it was this kind of theater equivalent of flash fiction. They'd written scripts in an hour, and they gave the actors, like 2 hours to rehearse it or whatever, and some of them were brilliant. Some of them were just, and none of them were bad, but it was just like, and there weren't any props, or, it was all just come as you are theater, but you had to make the characters work no matter what the setting was. It was pretty entertaining, I gotta say.
Sounds like fun.
Yeah. But yeah, and so I don't know where I was going with that. Oh yeah, the whole this is what we've got.
Changing your setting, changing your time, trying to make it affordable for a movie to be made on a budget.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So
Because we're not talking Hollywood money here. We're talking my friends in Canada that make good films.
I want to stretch the subject to slightly different direction, because Jeannie, you brought up a very interesting point from the past, which was I got a group together to get together every week and do the exercises from Ursula K. Le Guin's excellent book, Steering the Craft. There are a number of good workbooks out there, but I have always found that to be successful as a writer, it is incredibly useful to have, at least as you're rolling, to be like we are being right now and have people to throw ideas back and forth with and appreciate your ideas and groan at your puns, but also to expand on them. Now we know that there are going to be Latin-speaking zombies and that they will be disassembling grandfather clocks. We don't know that. So the thing I wanted to bring up is that the world has changed since I called a bunch of friends and got them to a coffee house. How have you found writers to connect to?
Well,
before we start on that, I just want to, channel the ghost of Chaz. Well, not his ghost, because
what did you do, Dave?
pretty simple. Nothing. Who wants to know? Chaz will say, I don't work that way. So, he would be the devil's advocate in this case. But, since that's usually my role, I thought I'd just step in there and say, there are people who don't work like that.
That is true. There are
but then again,
99
Chaz,
ways of constructing tribal lays, and every single one of them is right.
yeah. And some of them are, writing is a solitary profession that, at the end you sit down and write something, even if you did get your ideas from coffee clatch or beers after work or whatever. Yeah.
An online forum or Twitter or
whatever.
I love Twitter. I don't know if you guys have dug into the joy of like the hashtag writing community or some of the others, but there are many, many communities of writers of every flavor out there. There's people interested in screenwriting, people interested in stories, short stories, long stories. Because I got a story accepted in a short story collection, I ended up in that group on Facebook. So there's groups out on Facebook for writers too. And finding people that you can, bounce ideas off is a good thing to do. I think there have been occasional novels where they might have benefited even more had the writers group been able to stop them. And it's like, I don't understand how you got from here to here. There's certain of my favorite authors that I absolutely adore. And there's one book I'm like, you wrote this because you had a deadline and your writing group never got to look at it, did they? Because I could tell these are all at a uniform high quality, except this one that is very unconnected and chaotic. And then they all go back to normal again. So we can all miss our input. But I think for those who like input, sorry, Chaz, there's a lot of opportunities.
I don't know that Chaz doesn't like input. He just doesn't use it.
Right.
I don't know. He once said that he really didn't like people reading things before it was done already. So
Oh, okay. Well, there you go.
didn't
No,
have
no.
a lot of beta readers, he said. So
It's
Well, we can all get together and read his next book coming out, The
can.
Creator School.
yes.
I'm looking forward to it.
He's got a collection. His collection's coming out in June too.
Oh, that'll be great.
So
That'll
cool.
be great.
Best of. But while we're talking about our friends, please also remember that you can go to the Pear Theater, the Pear VBOtickets.com/events, and buy a ticket to see Pear Slices, which has a playlet by our friend, of course, Carol Wolf in it. And that runs till the end of May.
I
Right.
think we should write a short play.
How short? Why? What?
I'm thinking about as medium. I really enjoy some of the work that has come out of this 2020. For instance, the Michael Sheen and Judi Dench and David Tennant, all rehearsing a play together, and the entire word and scripting is a bunch of actors rehearsing a play.
Staged, yes.
Staged.
You can
It's
see it on Hulu.
freaking hilarious.
Ah.
It's neurotic.
And
I can only watch one a week. It's so British, but
I feel like that could, how many of us have worked in a corporate setting and have spent the year on Zoom and could do Zoom comedy?
okay, when are we going to have this play down?
I'm still trying
Well-
to get Oz out the door, so give me June. My schedule frees up dramatically in June.
Okay, well, that's a new and different thing.
I have also liked the idea of here and there, I've had Zoom meetings where I say, I'm just going to sit on Zoom and write. And anybody else who would like to write as if we were all together in a coffee shop, come on, join my Zoom meeting and we can quietly, friendly ignore each other and read each other the funny bits.
How does that work out?
So far, pretty good.
Because people talk a lot or because they don't talk a lot?
I'm okay with the talking. I mean, let's face it, you and I have been tuning out each other for 30 years now. So
hmm Sorry, what?
I wasn't talking to you.
Nice. I needed that. Thank you. Just to kick in right quick, I realized how much of Coffee Club, not necessarily this one, but the other one who has the same people, that I get so many of my ideas from. It's just someone talking, moving along, and they'll say a name that I find interesting. And I've been trying to find a character's name for months or weeks or hours, and it just lines up. So to all the people out there who see me freeze, pull my notebook, jot something down, ask for permission to use it, I want to blanketly thank you all.
When you say that, it reminds me a little bit. Did you ever see The Man Who Invented Christmas?
No.
It is the story of Charles Dickens writing A Christmas Carol. And he had a similar method that he's like, I just need the main scratch or this, and he goes through all this because once he has named a character, they appear before him and start talking to him.
Oh.
So it's fabulous. Plus Christopher Plummer, may he rest in peace, plays Scrooge. So,
Yeah.
And it's kind of marvelous of how he goes through and ends up even arguing with his characters. So much like we bring our arguments to each other, he just spends them on the characters there in the corner of his room.
I am so glad to hear that I'm not the only person that does that. I thought it was me.
Well, it is you.
Oh, well, there you go.
You are just like Charles Dickens is all.
I was going to say he's like me, but I don't think it works that way.
Oh,
Uh,
well, don't get us wrong. You're both psychotic.
Oh, thanks.
Hallucinating people in the corner of your room is just,
It's a function of too many Zoom meetings.
yeah.
read Oliver Sacks.
I'm sure that you said something that wasn't all of her sex, but I can't tell you what it was.
Read
Oliver
Oliver Sacks.
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 It was
His
funny on
Oaxacan
my-
journal is one of the best travel journals with ferns I've ever read. But the man who mistook his wife for a hat stand is not.
Just a hat, I think.
Okay, any which way.
I think that was his first medical book or
Oh.
psychology book or whatever it is that you classify how he wrote what he wrote.
And I was going to say, I also do something that's a little bit cheater pie, and I have on all three of my novels so far. There are professional authors, people that you may admire very much, and maybe you've read their books. Many of them, and I actually do mean many of them, accept editing for profit gigs. So they
Tell
can
us
do
more.
something like, if you say, look, I really need to punch up my first 50 pages for my submission. Can you look it over? Tell me what I'm missing. Help me make suggestions. Or even just, hey, I need somebody to help me with the line edits, get me started, and then I'll go on. Whatever kind of editing you're looking for, there are very famous, fantastic writers out there willing to do it.
Oh, I'm willing to do it too, but nobody will bring their business to me because
Well, you don't have the establishment of I
I
have
know, right?
successful novels.
And you also have never, I used to proofread and edit for money back in college.
Mhm.
I don't offer that service now because I don't want, wow, you have a lot of expertise. You have a lot of professional skill at this. You should put your shingle out and do some of that. But you've got to get the word out. I mean, now everyone who's here this knows, but
Thanks,
It'll
both of you.
also-
Yeah.
I will tell people that it costs more than you want it to, but you're paying for quality. There was a fellow out there who was
You're paying for the
convinced-
name. You're not necessarily paying for quality.
I'm going to disagree because if there isn't quality there, the name gets tarnished and people figure that out.
I'm not saying that. Well, never mind.
Right. So
I'm not here to slam authors. I'm sure that anybody
Well,
who does that does
I would
it in
presume
good
that
faith.
you would also pick carefully to try to find the author that has similar style or the right genre or
Right.
whatever.
What I
Or-
would say is that it's like being good at anything does not make you a good teacher of that. And editing is like teaching in that regard. So,
Yeah.
right, but it's someone willing to hang their shingle up is going to have some skill at it, and it's certainly one of those things where you could look and see. I mean, for God's sake, Ursula Vernon, hello Ursula, has arguments with her editor, which are not arguments, they're mock arguments on Twitter, for God's sake, which make me laugh.
Mm-hmm.
Of course she wants me to cut these ellipses, but I've named them all and I won't cut anything I've named.
Sometimes there's a certain self-deprecating laughter to go with a thing. Like I was writing something set in 1901 England. So I had Chaz take a look at it and say, just let me know here. Did I refer to he's like, Jeannie, is it a village or is it a hamlet? These are different. Thank you. The little things that help make it more real. You know, if I write something from a male perspective, I take it to a guy saying, is this realistically Guy? Much like I would hope if any of you write girl perspectives, you bring it to me. Like, I don't know if you remember, Raymond, but way back many, many years ago, we were hanging out in the parking lot talking about a girl in a story. And you told me the scenario, you know, it was one that every guy knows of the girl that is ignoring the guy who's nice to her and dates the guy who's terrible to her. And like, well, she has terrible self-esteem. And you looked at me, what?
I do recall that.
Like, because that's standard. If you have a low self-esteem and as a female, you look upon suspicion as the people that treat you really well. And the people that say they like you but kind of treat you badly, that fits with your self-image of yourself. And you just gave me this look. You said, I need to think about that. But that's the sort of thing that it's useful when you want another perspective. And an author that is already published and successful in your genre or story or area or expertise, like go to Judy Tarr if you want to talk about anything having to do with horses, or I don't know, maybe Ursula Vernon's editor will help if you have something with chickens, or
No, that's Ursula Vernon's husband. It's ellipses or feds for Ursula Vernon's editor.
excellent. If you wanted to, I have helped out when Catherine Carr wanted to know, okay, I want to have this technology thing. Can I do this? I'm like, well, tell me what you want it to do. And she described it like, it needs to be more like this. And I described it so that she could then accurately use it in a book. And it's absolutely a good thing to go talk to experts on everything for that.
Yes, a second set of eyes are worth their weight. I guess worth their weight in gold, but how much do eyes weigh? I don't
Take
know.
those out of your mouth, you know.
They're at least 5-7 ounces, so they're worth a lot. But the other thing is that And Jeannie makes the point really well, although I wouldn't go to you for girl things, Jeannie. I'd go to you for woman things and man things. And I'm far enough away that you can't slap me for that.
Mm.
There's a lot of good expertise out there. Some things you can't research everything yourself. Well, you can try, but then you never get any writing done. And one of the great things about it is you can find an editor who really knows something of the subject. So like when you talk about Judith Tarr, if you go over to Tor and read her blogs, she has a lot of amazing deconstruction and examination of Andrew Norton's books, which really opens up a lot about not just Norton's writing, but writing within the genre of science fiction and where the tropes come from, because Andrew Norton was, originating a lot of these tropes and how to use them and how to misuse them. And it's free. It's on Tor.com. Go look.
Well, it's like Judith and Harry both have PhDs in medieval studies.
Brilliant.
And I always think it makes it interesting. Go look at somebody like, they have studied this at great depth. That's why they're so fun and real.
There is something to be said about
Turtle
that.
Dove. Sorry, Harry Turtle Dove.
Yeah. Or Barbara Hambly, another medievalist who,
So I think we've covered, there's hashtag threads you can find. There's Pitch Fest, by the way. I just wanted to throw out there for people that are interested in learning how to pitch things and want to try the Twitter method. Go look on hashtag Pitch Fest. Go look on hashtag writing community. You go search on these things in all of your social media, and I think you'll find groups that might be able to help you. And before you go out, start asking for help, I would stop and read a little bit first, because I always say if you have been willing to read other people's stories, it makes them more open-minded about reading yours. So give a little to get a little.
That's a very good point.
Because nobody wants to be that person that shows up, hey, fix my story, fix my editing. Oh, wait, I've told the story of that guy. The one that was going to write, he's like, I'm going to write this wonderful book of porn and I'm going to make $50,000 because all porn sells. And he handed me, and he's like, here, I shall pay you to edit this. And it was a dog's breakfast. It was literally not one good, well-formed sentence in the first 10 pages. He's like, no, I'll pay you $20. Go ahead and edit the book. So
$20?
He had no idea how much people's time costs. And that's one of those things that I want to say. If you want somebody to edit it, you're going to have to pay them a human professional rate. And let me tell you that it doesn't even start at $20 an hour.
Add a zero and you get to start somewhere in there. But yeah.
Let them start in the $50 to $60 range, and it's worthwhile. So you're getting somebody who knows what they're talking about. And also, if they looked at that and I handed this to anybody else, they would say, you should at least run it through spell checker first. So do yourselves a favor. Even if you hate Microsoft Word, with everything that is in you, find whatever word processing program and hit grammar and spelling first.
Yes.
Thank you. And then you can send it to Dave.
Okay.
Only with prior arrangement.
Oh.
So our sum up, keep a notebook, keep it with you. Doesn't have to be that big. It can use the notes on your phone. Capture those moments. Share them with friends. If you're having an idea, if you need something, bounce it off your friends. Get some ideas of how to move your plot along, and then finish writing.
Exactly.
Finishing part's the hard one.
Yeah.
Yes. If I may, one last thing. Yeah. There is a notebook called the Rocket Book that one of our friends introduced me to. So it's a physical notebook. You write on it with a special pen. You can take pictures of it that go to the cloud and then wipe the pages clean. And so I've been kind of looking at this thing thinking, I don't want to pay the money on it, flip-flopping back and forth, but we can't talk about notebooks without me bringing that up. It would just be...
Yeah.
Is this that Amazon Rocketbook Smart Reusable Notebook?
Yes.
Yeah, it's not, it's on Amazon, but you can try it out. They actually have on their website PDFs of free pages that you can write on and upload. So that's what I've been doing, is just trying it out and frankly figuring out how it works and how to subvert it. Not that I'm not going to buy a notebook eventually if I decide I want to, but I can upload pictures of my whatever anyway.
We know it's going to be your cats. It's okay. I can't define you.
Well,
Well, we will put links to both the Rocket books and all the other interesting things we talked about on our website, which is www.writersdrinkingcoffee.com. You can also find us on Facebook or Twitter. We love email. And you've been listening to Writers Drinking Coffee, a labor of love and enthusiasm put together by the host. Our main web support magic is brought to you by Deirdre Schween, and our sound engineer is David Welsh. Our intro music is Pretty Maid Milking a Cow, and our exit music is Breakfast with the Morning Person, both by Michael Lingberg. You can hear more from Michael Lingberg on manyhatsmusic.com. Our sponsors are Art, Coffee, Chocolate, and Rum. And we love Jackalope Designs, so watch our site. You're going to have a 100th episode new t-shirt out there soon. And to all of you out there who plug in and listen, thanks so much. I hope it's helpful.
So what do you do?
I teach at the Teachers College.
No. What do you teach?
I teach teachers.
No, not who do you teach. What do you teach? What subject?
Oh, right. I teach beginners classes.
Beginners classes on what topic?
Beginners classes.
Beginners classes on teaching then?
Well, yes, but more specifically, beginners classes.
Right. You said that.
I don't think I did.
It's just that they were the very same word, so I assume.
I couldn't be more clear.
I think you could.
How?
You could explicate.
I teach beginners classes to teachers.
On the subject of?
Beginners classes.
So you teach beginning teachers how to teach?
Beginners classes.
Okay, I think I'm starting to see now. You teach beginners classes to teachers on how to teach beginners classes.
That's what I've been saying.
Not in so many words.
In exactly so many words.
Equivocal words.
You ask the questions. It's not my fault you forget them before you even hear the answer, and it's certainly not my job to teach you how to interview teachers.
But it is your job to
teach beginners classes on how to teach beginners classes.
I see. What's the title of your course?
101 101.